I've been lucky enough to know Amira and Melinda for years. And the truth is, much of my love for WIA was birthed from my love of these two women. But that changed this year. This year, I got to see WIA in action in a way I never had before. When COVID hit, my organization Avaaz worked with our members to create a COVID recovery fund. We raised money from individuals around the world intended for communities in the blind spot, those that were left behind by their governments, the aid agencies, foundations. We're talking about migrants in India, women in rural communities in Africa, indigenous communities in the Amazon. So early on, I thought I would call Melinda and I would just ask her to give me a few names of women's groups that we should consider for funding. Instead, in 2 weeks, the WIA team worked around the clock, which I've never thanked you all for, so thank you so much. And they produced a spreadsheet with 70 local groups across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. I started calling it the Lifesaver spreadsheet. These were groups already up and running with recovery plans within weeks of the pandemic. They were far ahead of us in the West because their own wisdom, combined with WIA support, has been preparing them for this for years. At first, I have to be honest, while I of course trusted Mindy's funding recommendations, I couldn't really see it for myself. Why give to these women groups as opposed to any of the other groups that were asking us for money? And I asked Mindy really directly. And what she said, she explained to me how these groups think completely differently about how they meet community needs. They don't just purchase sanitations and food baskets. They hire local women to build and work the sanitation stations who've been trained by WIA already. They purchase soap from women artisans for the stations, also already trained by WIA. They purchase food from local farmers for the food baskets, also supported by WIA's Seed Saver work. And they know exactly which schools, which communities, which churches, which families need them most. Giving to these women leaders, I really figured out it really was transformational granting. They're not just solving the problems in front of them, they're preventing the next one at the exact same time. But then came the hard part. We had to pick. We realized that we could only fund half the groups. I don't even know if I can, it was honestly the hardest decision of my life. And I think one of Melinda's too, because we knew that the cost of not giving to half the groups was going to be counted in more lost lives, more hunger, more sickness. And that's why we're really here tonight, because WIA should never have to pick between these women. Resilience has become one of those trendy words that people love to throw around. It's like the word of the year. Most of the time, people use it pretty inaccurately. The women that WIA support have already figured out how to live amidst crisis, amidst climate shocks, pandemic, drought. This is what resilience really looks like. WIA women are clearly saving the lives of their communities. And with our support, I truly, truly believe that they are the ones who are most likely to save all of us. So I'd like to raise a glass. And if you don't have a glass, just raise your heart. In gratitude for WIA, both for helping Avaaz and our members to deliver our money where it mattered most, but also for seeing ahead of the curve, thinking long-term in a short-sighted world, and remaking the model. Thank you, WIA women.